you have an article up right now. Saints rookie film room. Chris Olave has the talent to make a big impact right away. I assume you have watched every single pass Chris Olave has ever caught since he was 11 years old. What has the film revealed to you?
Oh, man, I love watching this guy play. Like, the more and more you watch, the more stuff you pick up on him. And there's just little details in the things he does that are just extremely high level. And this is before ever getting NFL coaching. It's subtle things like the way he moves his head to sell a dig before cutting back on a hitch to get the cornerback's hips going the other direction. And then once he's opened up, he cuts back and, you got 4 or 5 yards to throw the pass because the guy's going up the field. Well, Olave can stop in a dime and turn back with that 4.3 speed. And just everything he does is extremely thoughtful and he sees the field really well. And he'll make adjustments to make himself friendly to the quarterback. And it's just easy to see right away, like how he's going to transition to the NFL. I don't think there's going to be a big learning curve there as far as the on-field. Learning the play calls and all that could be, the challenge with this offense as it is for a lot of young guys. But I think he's going to pick that stuff up. He looks really, really smart. He's fluid, and like the difference between a guy like him and Brandon Cooks is like Cooks does everything well, but it's extremely mechanical, like by the book. If it's drawn on a piece of paper this way, he's going to run it exactly this way. There's a little bit more fluidity in the way Olave plays and the necessary adjustments based on the leverage the cornerback's playing or the coverage or, if there's a spot in the zone, he'll sit there and, it's a little more feel to the way he plays the game. And, like I said, I think he's going to join the team, hit the ground running. And I think he's going to really play well here. The things he does well match well with the things Jameis does well. He's really great out, playing outside the numbers toward the sideline, down the field. And that's where Jameis' strengths are. Jameis doesn't do necessarily, over the middle has been his kryptonite a little bit. And I think part of that was due to the personnel with the Saints last year. But just his strength is definitely on the outside, and that's where Olave thrives. So it looks like a perfect marriage.
One of the things people don't talk about, Nick, when they talk about these Ohio State receivers over the last 4 or 5 seasons, Brian Hartline is their receiver coach at Ohio State. And that's somebody, played 7-8 years in the NFL. He had to use the most of his talents. He had to come up with ways to run routes and to get off the line of scrimmage. And he's teaching that to these elite athletes. And so once they come to the NFL, I think you're exactly right. They looked way more polished than the other receivers that have come out from other places.
Yeah, that's true. I talked to Brian right after the draft, and being a humble guy, it was kind of hard to get him to take any credit for everything he gives it all to the players. So you see the impact, very clearly of a guy, like you said, that kind of had to learn how to succeed in the NFL. And when you have to learn how to succeed at something, it becomes a little bit easier to teach those things because you had to go through that process and you had to learn things and you take that knowledge and pass it on. I think you see that very clearly, and that he's tried to really build a NFL-type culture in that program too. And look, the other thing with the Ohio State guys is the level of competition every day at those practices. That's a big thing. But then they also are learning how to exist within that type of structure. And one of the things I really liked about Olave is in games where he wasn't getting a lot of targets, he's still working extremely hard to get open. He's running his routes the same way. There's really no discernible difference between games where he's getting 8-9 targets and games where he's getting 2. So I think that's going to bode well playing in this offense where I think Michael Thomas is deservedly the number one guy, and he'll probably get most of the targets. And, having Olave that's still going to be working hard in games where, sometimes the ball might not be coming his way as much is something that I think is really important and makes him a really good fit for this team. Because if you remember when Mike Thomas came in with Cooks, Cooks had a little bit of trouble accepting that the room dynamics were changing a little bit. And I don't know that Mike Thomas would have that problem. He was really happy when Traquan Smith came in. He seems to be really happy that Olave's coming in. They're already working out together. But I do think it is just kind of, just making sure that you have one guy that can live like that and the other guy went to the same college and is already starting out liking Olave. I think that's, it just kind of takes away any possibility for some of those ripples.
All right, so you hit on something there saying that Mike Thomas and Olave are working out together. I was going to ask you, are there any plans or do you know, are Jameis and Olave working out yet together? Because very famously last year, Jameis did a lot of work with Deontay Hardy, and that translated to a lot of success in the actual NFL season.
Jameis might have like the best content team around him in the NFL. So if he was working out with Olave, I feel like we'd already be seeing those videos. But maybe they're being put together. But surprised at all to see it at some point. I mean, I kind of actually expected just kind of the way you said. I mean, Jameis is always working, and I think with the knee and everything, it's there's some work for him to get done on himself. But if he hits that point where he's ready to kind of go a little bit harder on the field or whatever, I think we'll probably see it before. Because look, say what you want about Jameis, I don't think there's a lot of guys that put in more effort, more work, care more than him. And even if they aren't working out on the field, I wouldn't be surprised if those two are having conversations, or if they get together to watch film to kind of share an understanding of how Jameis sees the field now, Olave sees the field now. Those things mesh. So I would be extremely surprised at some point if these two don't get together and work things out, or work on things. I can't imagine there's anybody more excited than Jameis Winston about the direction of this offseason. He kind of really had to go through it last year with guys that weren't, doing a whole lot on the field. And it's just kind of crazy to think about if they were to bring in another guy. I mean, the top three guys from last year would be 4, 5, 6. I don't think there's a lot of quarterbacks dealing with that type of situation where all their top receivers from a year ago are kind of easily replaceable. So I'm sure he's starving to get to work with these guys, and as soon as he's capable of doing it, I bet we'll start seeing it.
So, Nick, obviously we talked about Sony Michel as well. Speaking on the offense, he signs with Miami. Does that mean the Saints will continue to look for another veteran running back? As you look at the list of free agents, you see names David Johnson, Phillip Lindsay, Devontae Booker, even a guy the LSU fans know, Darrell Williams, Latavius Murray, obviously an old friend for the Saints, still available. Do you think the Saints will go after still a veteran free agent, considering how interested they were in Sony Michel?
I do. I think it's something that they need to address. Even with Alvin missing some time or not missing some time, I think that there's probably a need for another guy in there, and they just maybe setting that barrier for guys like Tony Jones Jr. and Abram Smith to kind of overcome it and make sure they're earning a roster spot instead of kind of getting one by default. I think it's something that's important as well. And the one thing is I think there'd be some benefit in getting somebody in there just in case. Mark Ingram, he's been around for a while. He's been in the league for a while. I don't know that we've seen a lot of regression at this point, but at some point it's going to come, and I think you got to be prepared for that outcome as well. And if it does start coming and he's still capable on the field, you want to have to lean on him, through those first 2-3 games where he's carrying the ball 25 times or whatever, because I think this is going to be a run-heavy team as well. So I think they're gonna try to set up a lot of play action off the run, and I think you need to save those guys carries. You need to be in a situation where Alvin isn't running as many times between the tackles as he did last year. His ratios there were just astronomical compared to his previous usage, and that might just be a little bit of a philosophical change overall with the offense. But I think you need to be mindful of the fact of your maybe best playmaker on the team not taking on, unnecessary hits from defensive tackles and defensive ends when, just get them outside, get them the ball, and let them take the hits out there. It's a little bit different when, a cornerback's tackling you as opposed to Aaron Donald. So, I just think there's things they need to do just overall to kind of restructure that room and just lower the burden on the two main guys. So I think getting somebody else is definitely something that's a priority, and I think it's something that's a necessity even.
Nick, any updates on Tyron, his kind of integration into the franchise? Anything to report on there?
Nothing. Just it seems like everybody's extremely excited, and it's been really cool just to see the reaction to him coming back. I'm not sure that anybody could have created the same feel for things. I think people would have been really excited about Odell or if Jarvis were to happen, I think people would be excited about that. But Tyron's just a little bit different. He just kind of feels like more like part of the community, and he's somebody that's going to be around more. Like some of these guys would have signed and probably flown back to Los Angeles or whatever. But like it just kind of feels like Tyron's like really part of the community. And I think people feed off of that, and they know his story. I think his story is just it's so human, and it just kind of makes them feel like the homecoming. And I don't know if you could write a movie like better than kind of how that story's playing out. If he goes out and has success on the field, I mean, it's just kind of really like a special moment, and it's cool to see people recognizing that like as it's playing out.
Yeah, the favored son that led his state almost to a championship, was then pushed away, had to find his fortune elsewhere, now comes back as a conquering champion, looking to bring his state back to the championship realm. It is just the stuff of legend, potentially, right? It's already a great story, but the potential for it to be an unbelievable story is definitely there. Sign up for NewOrleans.football today. Nick at Nick_Underhill on Twitter. Nick, thanks so much, man.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me.
All right, we'll talk to Nick next week. And again, if you want to read about Nick's film study on Chris Olave or Alante Taylor or Trevor Penning, it's all there for you on the site. It's really, truly fantastic.